Okay, so for the first part of stave 2 for the Ghost of Christmas Past from the Christmas Carol, we're going to be looking at the journey that the Ghost of Christmas Past takes Scrooge on and the places he visits. So to begin with, you want to make sure you've listened to the audio book from the timings outlined, and also you may want to watch again the film version concerning the Ghost of Christmas Past, just so you're up to speed with this part of the novel. So for the first question then, we've got, what does the Ghost of Christmas Past show Scrooge? And write down the 5 places that Scrooge visits. Now, it's important to note firstly that the Ghost of Christmas Past shows Scrooge his unhappy childhood to begin with. And the ghost takes him on a journey to the countryside where Scrooge sees his old school, his childhood friends, and familiar landmarks. And this view of the countryside really contrasts with the dirt and pollution of London, where grief and greed were found everywhere. And the Victorians had a romanticised view of the countryside because of the Industrial Revolution. And so, therefore, this contrast between the darkness and the pollution of London with the countryside shows us the ability that Scrooge has to change himself. So it's a metaphor for the change that Scrooge could undertake. So, as I say, in the countryside, we see reminders of Scrooge's unhappy childhood as well. And we see the years that Scrooge spent alone at Christmas when he was at boarding school, where he only had books for company. One of the memories that the ghost shows Scrooge is of his sister Fan, who arrives to take him home after years have gone by. And she comes and she says that her father is now kinder and he's happy to have Scrooge home. But then Scrooge becomes emotional because we find out as well that his sister Fan, now that Scrooge is older, has passed away, but that she is mother to Scrooge's nephew Fred. So it's interesting to note that Scrooge has positive and warm memories of his sister Fan, and it makes the reader question, well, why, if he loved his sister so much, does he treat his nephew Fred so badly? Another place that the Ghost of Christmas Past takes Scrooge to is Fezziwig's party. And Fezziwig is the merchant who apprenticed Scrooge when he was younger. And Scrooge has, good memories of that as well. Another memory is where the ghost takes Scrooge to an old conversation when Scrooge is a little bit older with Belle. And it's the point where Belle breaks off the engagement for Scrooge because she knows that he's more in love with money than he ever could be with her. And then finally, there's a more recent Christmas scene where a middle-aged Belle reminisces with her now husband about her former fiancé Scrooge. And throughout all of these memories that Scrooge is shown, he starts to regret some of his adult actions. He has a really emotional response. There's a quote that says, "And he sobbed." And this really contrasts to the proud and mean-spirited man that we see presented in stave 1. So although Scrooge is reluctant to go on this journey of the Ghost of Christmas Past, we see that he does have this capacity to change. Okay, there is a YouTube link here as well to the Muppets Christmas Carol, just for you to have a watch of, where Scrooge is visited by the Ghost of Christmas Past. Okay, on to the main extract. Can I move this? Let's pop that there. Okay, so extract 7 then is the main extracts that we'll be focusing on for the questions which are in your booklet. This wants to move, there we go. So there's 3 main questions we'll be focusing on. So what I'll do is read through the extract, talk you through why I've chosen the quotations I have for each question, and and offer you some insight there as well. So, extract 7 from stave 2. It was a strange figure, like a child, yet not so like a child as like an old man, viewed through some supernatural medium which gave him the appearance of having receded from the view, and being diminished to a child's proportions. Its hair, which hung about its neck and down its back, was white as if with age, and yet the face had not a wrinkle in it, and the tenderest bloom was on the skin. The arms were very long and muscular, the hands the same, as if its hold were of uncommon strength. Its legs and feet, most delicately formed, were, like those upper members, bare. It wore a tunic of the purest white, and round its waist was bound a lustrous belt, the sheen of which was beautiful. It held a branch of fresh green holly in its hand, and, in singular contradiction of that wintry emblem, had its dress trimmed with summer flowers. But the strangest thing about it was, that from the crown of its head there sprung a bright clear jet of light, by which all this was visible, and which doubtless the occasion of its using, in its duller moments, a great extinguisher for a cap, which it now held under its arm. Even this, though, when Scrooge looked at it with increasing steadiness, was not its strangest quality, for as its belt sparkled and glittered now in one part and now in another, and what was light one instant at another time was dark, so the figure itself fluctuated in its distinctness, being now a thing with one arm, now one leg, and now with 20 legs, now a pair of legs without a head, now a head without a body, of which dissolving parts, no outline would be visible in the dense gloom wherein they melted away. And in the very wonder of this, it would be itself again, distinct and clear as ever. "Are you the spirit, sir, whose coming was foretold to me?" asked Scrooge. "I am." The voice was soft and gentle, singularly low, as if instead of being so close beside him, it were at a distance. "Who and what are you?" Scrooge demanded. "I am the ghost of Christmas past." "Long past?" inquired Scrooge, observant of its dwarfish stature. "No, your past." Perhaps Scrooge could not have told anybody why, if anybody could have asked him. But he had a special desire to see the spirit in his cap, and begged him to be covered. "What!" exclaimed the ghost. "Would you so soon put out with worldly hands the light I give? Is it not enough that you are the one of those whose passions made this cap, and forced me through whole trains of years to wear it low upon my brow?" Scrooge reverently disclaimed all intention to offend, or any knowledge of having wilfully bonneted the spirit at any period in his life. He then made bold to inquire what business brought him here. "Your welfare," said the ghost. Scrooge expressed himself much obliged, but could not help thinking that a night of unbroken rest would have been more conducive to that end. The spirit must have heard him thinking, for it said immediately, "Your reclamation, then. Take heed." It put out its strong hand as it spoke, and clasped him gently by the arm. "Rise, and walk with me." Okay, so the first question then says, how does Dickens describe the ghost of Christmas past? Highlight 3 quotations that help you picture the ghost. Now, what I've done is I've picked out 3 quotations myself. It's not to say these are the only quotations that work in the description of the ghost of Christmas past. They're just 3 examples which you may wish to use and make notes on. So the first one then, we've got like a child, and yet not so like a child as like an old man. Now, this description is quite contradictory. So the ghost is described as having long white hair, but yet his face is unwrinkled and has a youthful glow. So the contradiction then between him looking like a child, but also an old man, kind of reminds us of the more physical properties of Scrooge's youth. So the childlike appearance of the ghost is meant to resemble the memories of Scrooge's childhood, whereas the part of the ghost that looks like an old man reminds us that Scrooge is now old, that he is now an old man. So we've got this youthful glow and an unwrinkled face, contradicted by the long white hair, to remind us of Scrooge's current age and how much time has gone by since Scrooge has experienced some of these memories. Another quote, it held a branch of fresh green holly in its hand, and in singular contradiction of that wintry emblem, had its dress trimmed with summer flowers. Now, the Victorians were really interested in flowers, and they felt that flowers could convey lots and lots of different meanings. So it's significant that the Ghost of Christmas Past holds a branch of holly. Now, we normally think of holly as symbolising winter and cold and Christmas, but the robe is also trimmed with summer flowers. So again, we've got that contradiction. The Victorians felt that holly as a flower symbolised the forgetting of the past, as well as it being a symbol of winter. So it's significant that the ghost is holding the fresh green holly in its hand, because it reminds us that Scrooge has tried for a large proportion of his life to forget his memories, to forget his past and to repress it. And that symbol of winter as well reminds us of this cold facade, this proud and mean, self-centered man that Scrooge has become. But like the appearance of the ghost looking like a child, but also like an old man, we've got this contradiction, because whilst the ghost holds the holly, the robe is also trimmed with summer flowers. So there's this suggestion and this reminder yet again that Scrooge does have the capacity to change, and there is this brightness to the ghost to remind us of that. The final quote I've selected is, "For as its belt sparkled and glittered, now in one part and now in another, and what was light one instant, at another time was dark." Now, the fact that the belt sparkled and glittered in one part and then in another shows us that the ghost's appearance is really hard to define. There's no clear shape to it. It's really difficult to capture. And the fact that the ghost's appearance is kind of this forever changing thing reminds us that our memories always change as well. Our memories of the past always change. And memories can be reshaped by our experiences, and events from the past and events in our memories can have different significance at different points in our lives. And so the ghost's change in appearance symbolises that memory is this fluid thing that always changes and can change depending on the experiences we have as we get older. On to question 2. It says, "What do you think the light beneath the spirit's cap symbolises?" We've got, "But the strangest thing about it was that from the crown of its head there sprung a bright clear jet of light, by which all this was visible, and which was doubtless the occasion of its using, in its duller moments, a great extinguisher for a cap, which it now held under its arm." Now, the question is asking what the light beneath the spirit's cap symbolises. Light traditionally brings us connotations of purity, of goodness, and of truth. And these are characteristics which are often linked to our childhoods. So the fact that the Ghost of Christmas Past is described as being full of light reminds us of these characteristics that we often associate with childhood. However, in question 3, it asks, "Why do you think Scrooge wants the spirit to cover the light?" Now, Scrooge can't bear the light that is coming from this spirit. He wants him to put it out. He's uncomfortable in the presence of the being. And chances are he begs him to cover the light because he is so uncomfortable. You know, he recognises the difference between who he was when he was a child, someone pure, someone good, someone truthful, and how that now contradicts and contrasts to his current approach to life, which is full of darkness and cold. And quite often when Scrooge is around, there's this image of fog as well. So the light contrasts with Scrooge's current persona in his dark, mean-spirited, cold nature. However, the fact there is light there links to later in the novel, where when Scrooge wakes on Christmas morning, there is sunlight coming through the window to symbolise a new hope for Scrooge. So this image of light comes up again and again throughout the novel. And Lastly, I've just put together a quick summary for you about the Ghost of Christmas Past. So remembering that the appearance of the Ghost of Christmas Past is important, the fact it looks like a child and an old man. Scrooge wanting the ghost to put the cap on, to put the light out. The ghost obviously refuses because he says to Scrooge, "You've been making me put the light out for years. It's time to go on your journey and to see how you've changed," and that he's there for Scrooge's welfare and for his reclamation. So to show him how he was and to try and save him. So those notes are there just to help you. I hope you found this video useful. Take care.